Good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy abstract webinar. We're going to be starting shortly as soon as we get our slides up so we can begin to introduce everyone and go over some housekeeping. We do have interpretation tonight, so if you need to access that, I'm not sure if Gustavo is going to give those instructions or if I can go ahead and give them. But if you're in need of the Spanish translation, you have the option to click on the globe on the bottom, well, in your toolbar, wherever it is, if it's at the top or the bottom of your Zoom screen, and then select what language you need. This, so yeah, next slide. And I first want us to kick off this evening. I forgot to introduce myself. I will do that when I introduce our host committee. Okay, we're gonna pause for just a moment to take care of some tech stuff. All right, thank you for, well, it wasn't a long time for anybody listening to the recording. Excuse the glitches that you may witness watching the playback, but thank you again for coming to our HIV is Not a Crime 5 Training Academy. To start us off this evening, we have our host committee that wants to share some information with you all, and then we'll go over housekeeping. And just a reminder, if you're utilizing during the live session, if you need translation, to please click on the globe and select which language you would prefer to listen to this session in. And without further ado, I will introduce Deirdre and Cedric.
Well, hello, everyone. And we are super excited. Y'all already know, you see in the corner, that's on our slide, it says, welcome to Virginia. We cannot wait until June of 2023 to bring you all into our amazing Commonwealth, or our state, but our Commonwealth, because why? Virginia is for lovers. If you haven't noticed, Cedric and I both lead with love, and we started our ECHO VA, ending criminalization of HIV and over-incarceration in Virginia. And we honestly started at HINAC5, I believe that was in Indianapolis, and we are super stoked, super excited, super in love with the fact that you all will be joining us in 2023. So we want to officially start, this is the official, unofficial, official welcome to you all for everyone that is interested and will be submitting an abstract for Emory and Henry College in Virginia. So we officially, unofficially, but officially want to welcome you all to Virginia and to our amazing state. And we cannot wait to host you all, to have you all in our space, and to share and to learn together. I'm going to pass it on over to my partner in change, my forever love in this work, my brother from another mother, my everything else in between, my bestie, and more, to Dr. Cedric Pulliam.
Good evening to everyone on the webinar today or listening for the recording, and welcome to Virginia. Virginia is one of the first states in the southern United States to modernize its HIV criminalization laws in 2021. And we are graciously ready to host you all in June 2023, as Deidre mentioned, at Emory and Henry College in Emory, Virginia, near the Tri-Cities area. And one thing I wanted to add is that we're ready to learn from each other and collaborate from each other and see some amazing sessions, breakout sessions, and you know, plenaries and things of that nature. But we are excited for you all, and let's get started with this abstract webinar and learn what's in store, what we need to prepare for to submit abstracts. So we're going to say thank you from the host committee and pass it over to our leadership this evening for the co-chairs and Kamaria. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deidre and Cedric. As you all can see from the energy of our host committee, we are already going to have a good time. And we have a whole, 7 months left before HINAC. So y'all get ready. Next slide, please. So just a reminder for folks that this, if you need to leave early, this webinar is being recorded for those not able to stay on for the entirety or who couldn't join us today. Please maintain your devices on mute to help eliminate any background noise. If you have a question, you can use the chat box. It is enabled. You can also utilize the Q&A feature, but please keep your chat box comments relevant to the abstract information being shared and anything HIV is not a crime training academy related. Next slide. And now I will turn it over to our program co-chairs that have worked really hard to put this amazing abstract process together, a part of our executive committee, Kevin Lish and Kelly Flannery with PWN. Kevin Cicero, sorry. You have the floor now.
Thanks, Kamaria. And we can go to the next slide. Great. So we want to welcome you again to the unofficial kickoff of HINAC5, where we're going to come together and help train advocates living with HIV and allies from all over the country on best strategy and practices to repeal and reform HIV criminalization laws. And again, as Deidre and Cedric just told us, the Training Academy in 2023 will be held at Emory and Henry College in Emory, Virginia, June 4th through June 7th. And next slide, please. Here are some important dates, and you all will get a copy of the slide deck. The first date is today. We are having our call for abstracts webinar to kick it off. You have until January 6, 2023 to submit your abstracts. You will find out whether or not your abstract was submitted on March 21st, 2023. And we, in the program work group and the executive committee, will have the HINAC5's program and agenda set by April 30th of 2023. Next slide, please. Here's a really critical point to remember, that all proposals must have at least one person living with HIV as a presenter or a co-facilitator to be successfully considered for selection. So please remember that one person on the presentation team must be living with HIV. Next slide. And then also, all presenters are required to register for the conference or apply for a scholarship. This is really important. Acceptance of an abstract does not guarantee that a person who has applied for a scholarship will get a scholarship, or there will be any coverage of costs for registration or travel expenses to HINAC. So please remember that if you submit an abstract and a scholarship, your abstract may be submitted, but the scholarship request may not, and you would then be required to register for HINAC. Next slide, please. Okay. And as usual, we are expecting a good number of abstract submissions this year. And when we start looking at the abstract submissions, of course, it's a huge balancing act. And we are going to elevate different things into HINAC5 as we have in all past HINACs. We want to elevate diverse leadership, new organizations coming in on the line in the HIV crim community, and also new voices that may not have been heard at past training academies. Next slide, please. Great. So what does it take to have a favorable abstract to get a yes? The first thing is we would really love for you to design an abstract that's participatory. We would love to see a lot of interaction, both with the attendees at your abstract, participation between the presenters and the attendees. And then also if your abstract has any kinds of hands-on activities for attendees, that will be favorably looked at as well. We would love for the abstracts to have timely information in them. We would like to see them demonstrate an understanding of the current socio-political facts going on in our country, the criminal justice system, the over-policing that's currently going on, and also the environment of criminalization and reform or repeal efforts. It needs to be intersectional. You need to put together an abstract that shows how we need all voices at the table of communities that are most normally affected by HIV. Practical, we like to see abstracts that include both innovative strategies, exemplary models, powerful narratives that can be accessible for artistic and cultural use. And so bring it down to how you can share information and have practical ramifications for the folks attending your abstract. Next slide, please. Intergenerational. So that we would love to, we all know we need to involve youth more, and it looks like that's becoming an easier and easier thing to do, the way they turned out last week for the election. But it's great to keep in mind how we can include youth in an abstract and other young folks, and also make it multi-generational so we can get everyone working on the same page. Geographic diversity, again, it's going to be for a national audience, but we would love to see content and facilitators relate their work to different geographic areas, especially the South. Your abstract needs to be centered in racial justice. They must, have a racial justice slant and intersectional analysis and approach, even if it's a monoracial emphasis. And multiracial teams of facilitators is also highly encouraged. And one of the things that's really important is to please use people first language. It is really important that we use language that's non-stigmatizing and centers people dignity, and rather than the fact that they're living with HIV. When you get the slides, you can download the people first language from the hyperlink that's on the slide. I'm sure someone will drop it in the chat box as well. And this is the new version that was recently updated by the wonderful RISE facilitators at PWM, and it is the most current version. Next slide, please. What we don't want now is that we don't want lectures and presentations of academic papers or things that are mostly theory or panels that basically lecture an audience. Again, please keep them interactive. We don't want something that does not bring things down to a local level. How can your abstract be used in different places around the country to reform HIV criminalization? Please remember to keep them local. We do not want abstracts that focus on a problem without an equal or preferably a greater amount of time spent to the solution that you found in your coalition or your effort to end HIV criminalization. And then also we really want things, sessions that are engaging and hang on one sec, my chat popped up and I can't see my slide. Okay, sessions by individuals not engaged with, connected, or accountable to social justice organizations or communities. So again, please make sure that it's going to be relevant to our wonderful people living with HIV community and all that comprises it. Next slide, please. Again, people first language. This again is a something that we're going to go over again, because it is very, very important that we make sure we don't do anything to stigmatize any group. On the left, you will see examples of language that is stigmatizing, and on the right, you will see the preferred way to say things that are not stigmatizing. And again, the hyperlink at the bottom of the slide when you receive it will bring up the new version of the People First language put together by RISE facilitators. And I saw that Barb dropped it in the chat box. Thanks a lot, Barb. And we can go on to the next slide. Great. So applicants can submit up to 2 workshops or abstracts for consideration. You need to make sure that the content you submit for review will fill a 90-minute workshop. And we don't have a limit to the number of presenters, but we do suggest that you keep it at 4 or under. You know, so it gives plenty of chance for people to be interactive and ask questions. And yeah, so again, you can do as many as you'd like, but we do suggest 4 or less. Next slide, please. Great. So workshops or abstracts are going to be reviewed again by an abstract review committee that is volunteer under the program work group for HINAC5. And again, they're going to be reviewed how they align with track descriptions and training academy goals and guiding principles. And Kelly will go over that with you more in a few minutes. And please keep them clear. And I'm going to say this with all the love that I can muster. If you can be clear with bullet points, we will love you forever. Bullet points are our friends. And also, please keep in mind the suggested format, and that your abstract is appropriate. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here and give a shout out to a few people. One of the things that's new about HINAC5 is we will be able to offer continuing education credit for case managers who provide services to people who live with HIV. This was a heavy lift, and I really want to thank Naima O'Neill, Nishi Parkinson, and Alicia Diggs. Without their subject matter expertise, we never would have gotten this done. And also a huge thank out to Tana Predia, who led one of the subcommittees in the program work group along with Olga Irwin. Without these dedicated folks, that this would not be happening at HINAC5. Thank you all so much. Our abstract review committee will include a MD, a graduate level nurse, and a graduate level social worker. These continuing education credits will be offered through Virginia Commonwealth University. I think we really lucked out on this. They will not be looking at content. They won't even look at the abstracts. As long as we have an MD, a graduate level nurse, and a graduate level social worker on the review committee, we can follow the same format we always have in the past, and nothing changes, except that hopefully we can get some other partners who are important to efforts to reform HIV criminalization to HINAC. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Flannery from PWN to take over. And thank you all so much for coming this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin. And hey, everyone. As Kevin said, I'm Kelly Flannery, Policy Director at Positive Women's Network. So happy to be here with you all, and just echoing Kevin's thanks to all of the folks who made it possible for us to be here right now. So the first thing that I'm supposed to tell you is something that we're doing wrong in this presentation. We strongly encourage applicants to consider formats that engage participants rather than simply presenting information. I am totally going to simply present information from here on out. So what I would love to hear is if folks can drop into the chat, maybe from like 1 to 10, 1 being, you know, I might have to wash my hair that day, 10 being, I cannot wait to go to HINAC. I would be there right now if I can. How excited are you for HINAC? I want to see some numbers in the chat. try and engage a little bit. I see a 50. Awesome. 20, 10. Wonderful, everyone. So I'm going to keep going over some information about the workshops. So the program committee, when we are reviewing the workshop acceptances, we're going to do so with an eye towards diversity of presenters, particularly in demographics, geography, skills, expertise. This is part of our commitment to social justice and the way that it shows up in HINAC, as well as how the program committee is committed. We also, I just want to flag for you that HINAC doesn't end at the end of HINAC. The workshops are actually going to help advance effective grassroots organizing and coalition building on the ground, so that when participants leave, they're going to have concrete tools and resources to work on state level strategies when they return home. HINAC returns home with them. Next slide, please. All right, so when you submit your abstract, we're going to ask you to identify a track. So there's 4 specific tracks for submission, and we're going to go over the 4 of them in the upcoming slides. The first one is effective accountability and leadership. The second is rights, policy, and justice. Then there's campaign planning, strategy, messaging. And then finally, core curriculum. Next slide, please. Effective and accountable leadership. So this track is really going to focus on building relevant and current leadership skills for an effective and intersectional movement to end HIV criminalization and intersecting forms of criminalization. So you want to think of submissions like coalition building, development of individual leadership skills, or centering disproportionately impacted communities in your advocacy. Next slide. Health policy and justice. So as Kevin was talking about, HINAC does not exist in a silo, none of us do. So this track is really going to focus on policy issues and advocacy strategies that are relevant to disproportionately criminalized communities and in the criminal legal system. So submission on issues specific to communities targeted by surveillance, policing, and incarceration because of racism, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, substance use, immigration status, and other forms of discrimination are specifically encouraged. Next slide, please. So campaign planning, strategy, and messaging. This track is really going to provide advocates with the resources, tools, and skills that they need to successfully develop and implement a state-level campaign to repeal or modernize their HIV criminalization laws. Submissions for this would kind of be like the nuts and bolts that are required for communication and organizing around HIV decriminalization and modernization. So it could include things like messaging, research, and positioning, how to use that research to best persuade media, policy leaders, lawmakers, people on the ground, and the creation and execution of a campaign plan, really digging into the nuts and bolts of strategy. Next slide, please. Core curriculum. So this track is really going to focus on the subjects, tools, and skills that are considered essential to work in coalitions to end HIV criminalization. So you can think of this as like the core knowledge and resources that are required for effective coalitions. So submissions can include coalition development and strengthening, how to develop an intersectional coalition that's working to end HIV criminalization, sex work criminalization, and the criminalization of drug use, specific actions, lessons learned, or innovative approaches to changing the narrative and ending HIV criminalization. Next slide, please. All right, so now we went over the 4 tracks that you're going to have to choose one of them. You're also going to need to be prepared with some necessary information when you submit your abstract. So the first one is going to be the first and last name of the lead presenter or presenters. You're also going to want the email address and phone number for the lead presenter. And then you're going to want the first name and the last name of the additional presenters, as well as the title and organizational affiliation, if any, for all of the presenters, both the lead and the additional ones. So make sure you collect all of that information from your folks. Next slide. After you have that necessary information, you're going to want to dig into the details of the workshop. So the first thing you're going to need to do is identify your workshop track, one of those 4 that I just described. You're going to want to have a proposed workshop title, a workshop description, and 3 workshop objectives. So those objectives are going to be the goals. Basically, when folks leave your workshop, what are they leaving with? What is different? Next slide, please. So the format of the workshop. So when we say that you want to describe what your workshop's going to do, you're going to want to describe how you and or the other presenters are going to conduct the workshop. So your presentation style. Will there be opportunities for discussion, interactive activities, or exercises? Next slide, please. You're also going to want to identify the level of the presentation. And this is so folks can opt into the workshop that's going to work best for where they're at. Because everyone's coming with different levels of experience. Some folks are going to be at the very beginning of their advocacy. Some folks are going to be advanced, having done this for decades. So if you identify your level as a beginner, this workshop really doesn't require attendees to have any prior knowledge of subject matter to be covered in the session. So you're really going to be able to take folks from wherever they're at and give them all of the tools that they need. Intermediate. So this means that the attendees do have some foundational knowledge of the subject matter to be covered in the session. Or maybe you're planning on hosting an advanced workshop. So for this one, the workshop does require that attendees have high-level science, case law, policy, or program implementation knowledge. That's going to be the folks that have probably already been in the field for a while. Next slide, please. All right, so a couple of final details. As I just described, you're going to want to identify if your workshop is for beginners, intermediate advocates, or advanced level advocates. Include a short bio and picture from all of the presenters. And when I say short, I mean short, 25 words. You're going to want to put that in the HIV is Not a Crime 5 abstract submission form, which we will put into the chat box. Any other questions that you have regarding the Training Academy can be emailed to Tammy at tammyhott@ceroproject.com. Next slide, please. All right, let's give the high-level recap of all of the very important, yes, Teresa, 25 words is a very short bio. Everyone's gonna have to cut theirs down. A recap of the vitals. HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy will be held June 4th to June 7th, 2023 at Emory and Henry College in Emory, Virginia. The submission is due Friday, January 6, 2023 by 5 p.m. Central Time. That's 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Pacific. There are 4 tracks that you have to work within. So you're going to want to identify one of these. It's going to be effective and accountable leadership, rights, policy, and justice, campaign planning, strategy and messaging, and core curriculum. You're going to have to identify the one that you're submitting under for each of your submissions. At least one presenter or facilitator must be a person living with HIV, or your abstract will not be considered. An abstract selection does not guarantee coverage of registration or travel expenses. And remember, use person-first language. Thank you, Kevin, for going over that, and Barb for dropping the link. Next slide, please. All right, so I will pause here to see if anyone has any questions.
I have not seen any in the chat box or the question and answer. But we do know one question was submitted during registration, and that was, when will the registration for HINAC5 open, and will there be scholarships offered? So I can answer the part about registration. By the end of next week, we are hoping to have registration open on Whova, which is the virtual platform that we used last time for the Training Academy. We're using it again this time, even though we're going to be in person, and registration will be through Whova this year. So we will definitely make the announcement when that is ready, but goal is by the end of next week.
And I can take the scholarship question. Thank you, Tammy. I'm just trying to find the right timeline so I can give you the right information. So the scholarship application process will open on January 11th of next year. And then the deadline for nominations will close on February 15th. So it opens on January 11th, closes on February 15th. There will be an informational webinar just like this one for that process as well.
All right. Well, I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I love it. Barb dropped in their name and 2 things that they like. I encourage you to also drop your name in and 2 things that you like if you are so inclined. And oh, it's the 25-word bio. Amazing. Yes, Cedric, thank you. All right, if could we go to the next slide, please? So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and email Kevin and I. Save our contact information. It's up on the screen. We can also drop it in the chat box so that everyone has it. And yes, please continue dropping your 25-word bios into the chat box. It's giving me all of the feelings. And I see that Melanie, you've raised your hand. I'm going to press allow to talk.
What was my question gonna be? I can't remember my question because I didn't know how to unmute myself before you did that. So I was trying to figure out how was I going to unmute myself, but I see there's a thing over here. I guess I was focusing just here. Are we going to send these slides out?
I think that is Kevin.
Yeah, we are, Melanie, we will send them out, and also a copy and also a recording of this webinar.
Okay, because I was thinking, I think that's what I was going to ask about, making sure we got the slides, because you did a very thorough and complete job of explaining things, but going back over them, questions may come up. And this last slide is going to be part of the slide deck. Kevin Lish and Kelly Flannery, contact information. Good.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and please, if anyone has any questions as you're working on your abstract, please don't hesitate to reach out to Kelly or I. We will be happy to help you all we can. Do we have any other questions?
Darren just posted one in the chat box. What is the average attendance in the workshops? And I would say, if I can jump in, oh, you always give away books when you present. Oh, I like that. Gifts at a presentation. It all depends, Darren. Well, Kevin and Kelly, help me here. Are we having 5 breakouts per session this year? I can't remember if we've decided on that.
Yeah,
how many breakouts? But it all depends on what the topic is, what the other breakouts are. So we're hoping to, and it also depends on registration. We're hoping that 300 people will be attending HINAC, but we can never guesstimate. So I guess it'd be 300. Was it 5 sessions? What did we say? I don't remember.
We're still I think we're still debating that. I think we can have up to 6, and we're still trying to decide if we're going to have 5 or 6 sessions per breakout time. And, and I didn't think about, Darren, about giving something away like a book. Maybe let me work with Cindy a little bit and see if we can go back through some of the records, and I'll email you see if we can develop an average breakout attendance number for you.
Teresa has the question, will there be pre-institutes this year?
There will not be pre-institutes like in Indianapolis, but right now we're on track to have a bully, a Latinx Institute, a People of Trans Experience Institute, and a White Folk Dismantling Racism Institute, and it's built into the regular HINAC schedule, Teresa.
Excellent. And Cecilia is asking, how many days is HINAC 5?
So you will arrive on, I know it's Sunday, I believe it's Sunday, June 4th. And people will leave to go back home. If I remember the schedule correctly, Cecilia, that will start happening around 1 or 2 Eastern time. People will start getting on buses and heading back to the airport to go home.
On June 7th. So it's 4
I'm
days
sorry.
and 3 nights. Excellent and great questions. Are there any others? And if you want to raise your hand for any other comment, we can ask you to unmute as well.
There's a question. I don't know if this was already touched because I stepped away, but will there be adequate parking for those who may be driving into HINAC? And I would say yes. We didn't anticipate. I mean, there's plenty of parking because it'll be during the summer. So most of the cars that I did see will not be there, but there'll be plenty of space for folks who are driving to park.
Attire, conference attire. Do we have to have anything? Is there going to be a formal occasion, or is it the most business casual or casual?
I've always gone business casual to casual, probably a little more towards the casual side, Melanie.
Okay.
I've always thought HINAC was fairly relaxed when it
Okay.
came to that thing. There's no ties and sport coats.
Good.
And anyone else?
Teresa, there will be like a night of celebration, but you're not required to get dressed up. I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
And a great thing to wear would be a limited edition Saro t-shirt or hoodie.
You have until December 31st to get those. Mhm.
I have a hoodie. I have a hoodie.
Any other questions? If we don't have any questions, I'll turn this over to Tammy to take us through the announcements and to close out our webinar.
All right. Well, first off, thank you so much, Kevin and Kelly, for the hard work getting us to this point. This is very exciting. This is one of the first major work groups really opening up and setting us up for success for HINAC 5. So thank you all, along with everyone who is on the program work group for being on those calls, being on the different subgroups. We appreciate everyone who has had the input. So thank you so much for that. We have a few announcements we just want to let you all know about. The HINAC Art Contest spoken word category only deadline has been extended until November 23rd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So I dropped it in the chat box, and it will also be in the notes document when we send out the recording link and the slides and all of that information on. You can find information also at that bit.ly HINAC5 spoken word. So that is still open for anyone who enjoys presenting through spoken word. Next slide, please. The other thing that the USPL HIV Caucus, who is a partner organization of HINAC5, still has open through the end of the year a survey for Ryan White Part A Planning Council members. If you would please, take the time and fill out this MIPA survey. It's asking about if you have served or serving on the Ryan White Part A Planning Council. We're looking for your participation to identify the meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. So please fill that out if you have participated or are currently on a Part A. Next slide, please. And the next announcement is, while we had led this workshop, Kamaria is partnering with Positive Women's Network of Louisiana to share an abstract writing workshop, just to provide some more tips for people who are new to submitting abstracts or just wanting more information. The link is there to register for that, which is Thursday, December 15th. So we hope that you will join that if you have any questions. Although if you don't want to wait that long and you do have questions, remember Kelly and Kevin are available to help with that as well. Next slide, please. The next thing we want to invite you to is Sarah's 10-year anniversary. It's December 6th, and we are having a great program scheduled for that night, but we hope that you'll come help us celebrate 10 years of advocacy and honoring you, our partner organizations that have helped us to get to this 10-year anniversary. So that link is also in the chat box. And the next slide, the final announcement is the next Road to HINAC5 webinar will be an update on molecular HIV surveillance and criminalization on December 12th. The link to register is now in the chat box. So we hope that you will join us for that Road to HINAC 5 webinar series, and this will be led by the USPL HIV Caucus. Those were a lot of announcements. Does anyone have any questions about those or any final questions before we sign off for the night? Okay, seeing no hands raised or any questions in the chat box. Oops, wait, something. Nope. All right. So thank you all very much for attending this webinar. We'll be sending out the recording link. We'll get it uploaded to YouTube and then linking that into a notes document that we will send out to everyone, along with the submission form that you will need to fill out. Kelly and Kevin have created an Google form for the abstract submission and other information that will be highlighted in those notes. So please look for that. We'll send it out to everyone who registered. So good luck. And like we said, if you have any questions, please reach out. Again, thank you, Kevin and Kelly, and hope everyone has a great night. Or wait, I wanted to ask Kevin and Kelly, do you have any last thoughts or anything that you wanted to uplift?
See you at HINAC.
Yeah, it's going to be a great HINAC. Can't wait to see you all in person there.
Perfect. Thank you all.